Folks, we're back here at Circuit World in Blue Ridge, Georgia on Friday morning. This is the All-Star Panel. If you're just joining us, Bruce, Rick, and Jane. We have been talking about Robert Mueller. No, not Robert Mueller. That's the Mueller report. We got to get that. Yep. Bob Barr. I got to get that.
Bill Barr.
Bill Barr. William. Let's get it to William.
It's a senior moment.
William. Excuse me.
And Julian Assange.
That's next. See, that's what.
Paul Julian.
We've been talking about William Barr, the Attorney General, and the spying, but we're going to switch gears right now. We're going to talk about the arrest of Julian Assange. Julian Assange, the founder and the head of WikiLeaks, has been, I think, since 2012.
6+ years.
6 years. He has been in the Ecuadorian embassy in London under asylum. The new Ecuadorian president said, get out. You got an eviction notice. And they came and drug him out. What say you?
Well, most people who watch in the morning here with us, they see Bill before us.
Yes.
And everyone knows I love him and he loves me. But I would like to say that Bill is so far from going down any rabbit hole that he now says rabbits live in trees. I mean,
those are called squirrels.
He will not go down anywhere in a rabbit hole. And I'm not saying this is a rabbit hole. But the thing is, he was telling me this morning, Assange was arrested, which I already knew, and they were bringing Lady Gaga in, and he was being mean. I said, and what's your source? He said, the New York Times. I said, well, hello. You think I am reading the New York Times about anything about Assange? No. He says, well, who are you going to read? I said, I don't know yet. I need to see who's reporting on it. But the thing is that if you've been following WikiLeaks for 6 years, and I have, he was in charge at first. And personally, I think if it hadn't been for Julian Assange, we would know nothing about Hillary's issues. We would know, Hillary would be president. I firmly believe that. And we would be in war with Russia, probably. And we would be, if not already, a communist country. I believe that. So, the deep state, Hillary was quoted as saying, can't we just go in and shoot him? I have to find that quote.
No, you're right. That happened.
That happened. So,
if it hadn't been for that, Bradley Manning would still be Bradley, not Chelsea.
Right, and the Bradley Manning thing, I heard Julian talk about Bradley Manning, and that's a whole nother thing, I don't know. But we have the deep state, we have a thing called MK Ultra, he may have just lost his mind. I mean, he looked horrible when they drug him out.
We've imagined 7 years not going out.
Right. I mean, give me a break.
He was living in a 300 square foot room.
Right. And I'm not
climbing the walls.
Yeah, I know
15 by 15, isn't it, or something? No.
15 by 20.
15 by 20, yeah.
So don't believe the New York Times. Don't believe anything you hear about him until we get some news from a reliable person.
And isn't that Fetcher News himself?
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you know, I'm in the hurry up and wait column here, and let's see what happens. The extradition hearing, I think, is May 6th, somewhere around there. It's not going to be until May. There'll be a hearing in London for extradition. But the thing that he's the alleged crimes that he's going to be extradited to the United States for is in lockstep with, at that time, Bradley Manning. If you hear the media say Chelsea, that is at one time Bradley, but he was with Bradley Manning and hacking military secrets, releasing military secrets.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, okay. But here's the thing, is Manning we sent to prison, but for this, Barack Hussein Obama commuted his sentence for this, and he's out.
Yep.
So
as Chelsea. We paid for his sex change. We paid for his sex change. I mean, the taxpayers paid for it.
Yeah, we paid for the sex change. Ridiculous. I agree. But here's the thing: is this guy is in and he's out for what we are going to bring. See, Assange is not being brought here on charges of hacking DNC, releasing none of that.
For a password or something silly.
He's being brought here for a crime related to the same crimes as Bradley Manning, correct?
But why is the mainstream media saying this is like an assault on press freedom? They said, you know, if the sort of approach with him had been followed, the Pentagon Papers would have never been brought to light. I miss the connection there.
There is no connection. It's misspoken.
So they're just blowing smoke.
Exactly.
Okay.
They need to read the indictment. The indictment's on the internet. Go read it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got one charge.
And what is that?
The charge is that he conspired with Bradley Manning to help him retrieve a password with a Linux protocol that allowed him to access 4 government databases and download all that information. And the DC elite still holds him personally responsible for Hillary's failure to win the presidency, for Debbie Wasserman Schultz getting fired, for exposing that Bernie Sanders was dealt with unfairly by the DNC, all of that stuff.
Well, here's what they're calling him. They're calling him a Russian operative. Okay. Yeah, seriously, they're saying he. When they started. Go ahead.
Didn't he have a tie with Edward Snowden somehow?
Yeah. Yes.
No, maybe he did, and I'm on the fence.
There's
with
a maybe. Okay.
What do you?
Yeah, he had a tie with him.
Here's the thing. The other day I heard him say that they just yesterday they started talking about him being a Russian operative, and they said, you know, when he started with WikiLeaks, it was more of exposing, you know, the dictators around the world, and now he seems to be has recently been in line with Russia with releasing these. And I'm going to tell you, you know, when you talk about going down rabbit trails, I'm not convinced on all the DNC. I'm not convinced on everything with the DNC server and the hacking, because one, we have a server that the FBI never did get an opportunity to see. Okay.
Give me
we have a server that the DNC did their own internal investigation, correct?
We have Hillary's.
You know, hey, FBI here, let's take a quick look at that server. We got it. We brought people in.
Look, I think, you know, that the one thing that they keep overlooking, and by the way, I forgot to, when I was running my mouth a few minutes ago, I forgot to say that they did release a lot of things about Benghazi as well.
Right.
That exposed a lot of the Benghazi things. We've got a young DNC man dead in D.C.
Seth Rich, I don't want him to steal that from me. That was me.
I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't letting you have that one. Oh, no way. That was my next line. I wasn't giving that to you.
Hey. Well, that's where I think a lot of the DNC stuff came from.
I was waiting.
He gave it.
I know you too well. I wanted to say that, but no, I agree. He did. I agree with you 100%.
Seth gave it to his
exactly,
and he is a dead person now.
Yes, Rick is 100% right. Tell him who Seth Rich is. You were trying before I remember that.
Seth Rich was a young man that was working for the DNC. That he was found mysteriously shot and killed in his DC neighborhood. No apparent robbery. He was found with all of his personal belongings still on his person.
Shot in the back.
Yeah, right. Shot in the back.
And did they call it suicide yet?
Well, there were 2 shots. Yeah. But I believe firmly, as you do, because you did the research. You talked to the investigator who was investigating the murder, who was mysteriously paid and called off, I believe.
Yes.
What was his name?
He is former homicide detective Rod Wheeler from Washington, D.C.
That's it.
And he was.
You had several conversations with him.
He was investigating it, and he was shut down. Just simple as that.
Right. The family shut him down. Correct.
The family shut him down
because the family was threatened.
You got it.
Or the family got paid.
And the family
or both.
Yeah, well, the family of Scalia was threatened.
See, the thing I agree with him. It is still out there, and I know, you know, we get accused of, you know, as the media says, with Bob Barr looking into spying, William Barr, Bill Barr looking into spying. But anyhow, that we're buying into a conspiracy theory. But here is Seth Rich, a young staffer, DNC staffer. At this time, the corrupt Deborah Wasserman Schultz is DNC chair. At this time, she has the two Anwan brothers that I mean, all these stories are left alone.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And she threatened the DNC police with their budget if they did not return the computer.
Her computer that had all that sensitive info on there.
So I'm just telling you, there's so much of that, and that's why I'm saying but anyhow, this young man was a Bernie Sanders supporter. Okay.
Yep.
I always said, this is just me, I always say there was a flash driving that pocket that night, and that where did the DNC emails really come from? Did they make it through Russia? I don't know. Maybe they did. Did Julian Assange get them from Seth Rich? Did he dump them? I don't know.
Didn't Julian Assange in that one-on-one meeting with Hannity?
He told him it was
basically said that he did not. He was pointing the path
to Seth Rich. Right. I thought you said the opposite.
No.
Yeah, he did.
Right, so
Julian Assange was pointing the path to Seth
and
Rich.
what I've read is that Seth Rich was a Democrat, but what he saw that I have heard some of the video, not seen it, but a video that is so egregious, that is so unbelievable on Hillary Clinton, that he could not live with it.
Well, and no, wait a minute. You're right. He was a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Yeah, I mean, he said this
working for the DNC
is beyond the pale, and I am going to stop this. And when y'all see, if you don't know what he was talking about, you will not want to believe it.
What I feel is he's working. You got to put the pieces together, and to the puzzle. And it could be right or wrong, but you got to remember, this is right in the time frame that it was discovered with these emails. It was discovered that the DNC rigged, and Donna Brazil, the questions, and the DNC rigged with these special delegates,
super delegates.
Yeah.
The whole thing was stacked against Bernie. So you got to understand, this young man is in there. This is my assessment, and he's reading that his candidate, it was totally stacked, and how corrupt, and he's seeing this stuff. That's my thought. But let's go past him for just a minute with Julian Assange. The media is going to run with Assange, Julian Assange. They're going to run with the spy that we have bought into. But what we got coming out next week is, what are they going to do with Mueller's report? Now already they know they're going to get a redacted report. And I will tell you this, Kennedy did. Anybody out there that wants to understand why it's going to be redacted, if you're a little confused on that, there's nothing wrong, and you don't know exactly why, go look on YouTube. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy questioned Attorney General William Barr, and I don't know why I can't get Mueller and Barr separated this morning, but if you'll look that up and listen, it's only 6 minutes long. They laid out why it's redacted. Exactly why it's redacted. Okay?
Well, it's pretty simple why they redact things. I mean,
I understand, but I will say this: if you're watching the media, you don't know it's clearly, and he breaks it down. So Mueller report comes next week. What say you? What is the media going to do next? What do you think we're going to see?
Well, I think that Barr is going to release, that he's going to be able to release, following the rule of law, enough it's going to be a small explosion that is then going to, a chain reaction, and it's going to open up avenues that are going to open up the hydrogen bomb, the nuclear bomb, the whatever you want to call it.
Neutron bomb.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you're the oil man. And I think if we don't get Hillary in jail, and people say it'll never happen, I disagree. Because now we have the emails clearly stating she had this server, she knew she was breaking the law, blah blah blah. Then we're in trouble. We're done. If it doesn't start this chain reaction, and I believe it's going to, so he's going to tell us enough.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
to. That's okay. I went on too long.
No, that's okay. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Notice Barr's been very clear and concise in his affirmation of the fact that he's working in concert with Rosenstein and Mueller's group.
They're sitting side by side.
Perfect.
Sitting side by side.
Yeah, they're sitting
He even
side
looked
by
to his
side.
staffer for affirmation
He
that
did.
that he's not doing this in a little cubicle all by himself.
They got a table.
in a partisan
if you
way.
picture it, they got a table. You got somebody from the special counsel
Right.
staff. You got the Department of Justice, and they're flipping
And I
pages
can imagine the
together.
DOJ
You mean
says,
it's not Barr just sitting there with white out?
yeah,
No,
okay,
not Barr, that's right.
what color do we,
Rosenstein has a wire on
And I
though.
think what you're
what
going
color
at,
do we apply to this
Absolutely.
redaction so that we can correctly tell the public why this is blacked out? Were they part of the grand jury? Were they which protocol that we have to follow by rule of law do we want to? He's even taken it one step, instead of just doing a blanket redaction and letting the chips fall. He's taken it one step further and taking all those little pockets and color coding them. So there's no question about it. And he's not doing it by himself, and he's made that very, very clear.
there's 4 different levels, and I don't have that right now. And Rick is 100% correct. The Attorney General, they're color coding, and they're also going to write an explanation.
Right.
So if they take something out, it's going to be right there. You're going to have a copy that says this is redacted because. So it's not going to just be redacted. It's going to have explanation. And I think because they wanted to make it look like everything so far, okay, is going to be done by Barr under a cloud of suspicion, and he's going to make it look like the way he wants from the White House. He cleared that up, and just to be redundant, you're 100%. He cleared that up, that the Department of Justice is sitting here, and members of the council, special counsel, are sitting here and redacting. To go ahead.
And it doesn't matter, because the mainstream media and all the think groups are going to find the words in there. They're going to second guess it. They're going to put other thoughts in there, and they're going to find, oh, here there was definite collusion. Here there was some sort of backdoor agreement. They're gonna do that. I mean, it's coming.
So who was it that we need to keep playing over and over? It was either Schumer or that guy with the square face, Nadler, back in the day with
That's
Clinton.
Bullfrog.
Bullfrog Nadler.
I call him
Nadler,
Bullfrog.
we must keep it. You cannot be exposed. We cannot allow anyone to see this report. They need to keep playing that. They're playing it, but they need to play it a little more, I think. So, that's hypocrisy. That's not my big hypocrisy for the week, but that's...
Well, here's a sad note, is our government, these should be people that they have security clearances, they're sworn to secrecy, they take an oath when they go on these committees. Here's a sad note, is we should have people in our government that should be able to take this report unredacted, look at it, and honestly not leak it. But we know, they're going to leak it. And that's a sad state of affairs of where we're at.
Barr was asked directly whether he thought
it would
be leaked
if they, yes.
And he said, hello.
Yeah, it's that's a
same thing with Trump's tax returns. If they ever get them, they will be on the street in a day.
And you know where you got that hello? From his facial expression.
Exactly.
Remember? He looked like, really? You're asking me if they're going to leak? Right? Exactly. That's what I was saying.
It's one of his rare expressions.
Can I switch real quick?
Switch.
The Virginia Three and Joe Biden, have they been rehabilitated?
Man, that was... You heard the brakes, pump the brakes there. No, I don't think so.
You don't hear anything about it.
Oh,
Joe is like, he's getting a pass.
Huh?
He's getting a pass. Joe,
I hope he's the candidate. He's going to get smushed.
That whole thing was contrived
the
to take
Virginia 3, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing was contrived to take the emphasis off the governor by casting the lieutenant governor, and then it was taken off the lieutenant governor by casting to the next guy down.
The attorney general.
I mean, the whole thing was just so contrived. It was amazing.
Okay, our pet of the week should be coming through the door any minute. So what we want to do is, if you have a subject, and this is the time so there's no confusion here. If you have a subject we have not talked about, which Bruce, that didn't count, you can go into it again. And you have a winner or a loser this week, you can do that. So who wants to go first?
Can I just take a subject and then we'll do whatever we want?
Go for it.
This is not my thing. I thought Rush Limbaugh made a brilliant point this week. He said, for 2 years the Dems have been running their mouth on two major lies. One, that Trump was colluding with the Russians and he would be found guilty. The other major lie is that we do not have a border crisis. It's all made up. Those two lies were turned over. The mainstream media is now acknowledging that we do have a border crisis, and Mueller came out with a report that said no collusion. So now they're filtering down, taking Assange, and now that's what they're hanging their hat on. The Julian Assange is working with the Russians, and they're trying to tie it now back to the Trump campaign. That's the big package, and that's what's going to be going forward, in my humble opinion.
Ecuador case.
All right, well, let me ask you this question. I know I wanted to break that up, but that goes that way. But that goes. No, you opened something up that. Let me ask you this question: what next? Because the media. Do you think that Adam Schiff seriously and Nadler and all these Democrats that are privy to information, they get information we don't have, and Warren out of Virginia, are we really saying that? All right, they watched all the way through, and when the report, they got the summary, it's everything they hung their hat on is blown out of the water. Now they're asking to see an unredacted. What happens when they're blown out of the water on the report?
They're going to lurch to the next big subject, and they got a whole handful. They got the election, they got Medicare for all, they got Green New Deal, they got situation going on with North Korea, they got the China tariff thing. They'll just latch on to some other big issue.
I will say this on the border, they're taking the word crisis, yes. They're acknowledging there is a crisis on the border, yes. But they have flipped it to a humanitarian crisis.
That's correct.
They've gone to humanitarian. And what happens when it's a humanitarian crisis? Then the UN enjoys it. You know, nothing like a good humanitarian crisis to get the UN involved. So the media is going. There is a crisis at the border.
But last
Did you
night,
hear the border guy this week? He said they have picked up with all these people coming in 51 different nationalities.
Yes, Chinese, Middle Eastern. Yes.
And that was
Indians,
wasn't that the Obama appointee?
Yeah.
and did you hear they picked up over 6,500? They found skeletons and bones, and that have people. Pardon me, come across the border, and the hypocrisy in that, which is not my big hypocrisy thing, the hypocrisy in that
Stand by for the big
is
one,
that
folks.
They're saying as a humanitarian thing, let them come through. The traffickers bring them in just to get them in, the kids, just so they can get across, and then they set them out in the desert with a little bit of water, and they die.
Yeah.
And they're harping on humanitarian, and Trump opened that talk up. To the media to let the people.
Well,
so it's all just unbelievable.
I agree 100%. They've switched it to an humanitarian crisis, but we also have evidence that they're sending back messages to bring the kids. The word is getting back. Bring
Take
kids.
a kid.
And they stopped
Any kid.
They stopped.
right.
That's just.
They stopped a Honduran man with a 1-year-old baby that admitted it's not his kid.
And they take the kids, and then they go back, and then they take one child had been brought over like 6 or 7.
Yeah, they hand him off the border. Here,
They
take
hand
him
them
back,
off.
send him back.
Yeah.
Take him back.
That's just.
And we know.
It's our token catch and release.
We know sitting
This
here.
is my hypocrisy.
Construction-wise, time-wise, getting permits, whatever it takes, we know that Trump has not had enough time to build these detention facilities. And we know when we see all the video and stuff of these detention facilities with these so-called cages, they were built during the Obama administration.
Doesn't matter.
And I understand, but Trump did not build those.
Exactly.
Okay? And their
But he's separating families much more aggressively
areas.
than was on the books. And that's one of the things they're going crazy
All
about.
right, Bruce, go to you. What do you got?
Okay. I won't go into other subjects, just like my home
And I
run.
want to remember this week, I'm going to use
Home
the
run.
Virginia 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Home run. Liz Smith, the director of nursing at a hospital in Massachusetts, ended up adopting this 5-month-old girl who was a crack baby. And she said she was in the hospital because she had real serious, postpartum issues, and nobody came to visit her for 5 months.
Not one visitor.
Not the birth parents, nothing. So she fostered her, and she got final approval to adopt her. I think it's a great story.
That's a great winner.
That is.
Yeah. My airball.
That's good.
I'll go with that, okay.
Okay. I-75 at a rest stop. There were 3 young teenage girls who had showered, and
Who had what?
they had showered at a rest stop,
Showered in.
and they went outside and they were air drying.
They were applying suntan lotion, right?
Yeah, air drying,
Naked.
completely naked. So the police pulled up and said, "What are you girls doing?" You know, and like one thing led to another. They jumped in their car, took off. There was a chase. There were spikes. They wouldn't get out of the car. At the end, they got tasered.
Naked. Taser.
Was that
Teenagers.
Was that your winner of the week?
No, that was
was
my
his airball.
airball.
I don't know.
You know, you
That's
can't
a
make
loser.
this stuff up.
I mean,
what-
he took a shower, came out, and air drying. I was just wondering if that was.
well, I mean, who thinks like that? I mean, they're completely
Yeah, they
naked.
must
You know,
have been.
nubile young teenagers. It's like
On
crazy.
something. They were on something.
So anyway,
Who thinks like that? I got to remember that too, because that is like I go through the whole week and I read all these articles. Like, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Rick, what's
My
that-
loser of the week was going to be Avenatti, but you touched on that early. Mr. Avenatti, who's been on CNN how many million times, is now facing 343 years in jail for 36 felony counts. But my actual loser is going to be Stacey Abrams, who's now being investigated by the new Ethics Committee chairperson that took office on Monday for campaign violations. She is going to be
in a recent government run.
yes, yeah, and the recent
Government.
yeah, exactly. That's my loser. My winner, hands down this week, Candace Owens, who set an all-time C-SPAN record for viewings for going after California Representative
Beautiful.
Ted Lieu, for Ted Lieu taking something totally out of context to try to derail her.
Yeah.
And she absolutely made mincemeat out of Nadler and Ted Lieu, both.
Mincemeat.
Her-
She should be in the Senate or the House. She's got to run.
Her opening monologue was brilliant, defending the blacks and how they're treated by the Democrats, and then the piece that Ted Lieu played with his cell phone over the microphone, and he was just excoriated. That's my winner of the
There
week.
was something about Hitler, right? That like it was out of
refers
context.
to-
She,
yeah.
yeah. He alleged that she was saying that Hitler was a nationalist, and it was totally taken
It was
out of
okay.
context.
It was okay
yeah.
to be a nationalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what she was
That's-
trying to say is, you know, it's okay if you're a nationalist, you know, and he took it out of context. And I will say just on that before, Jane, you get to your hypocrisy, that you're just waiting there, tapping your fingers.
I'm being really good.
I know you are. But how about is it Omar? Is that
Yeah, Ilhan Omar.
sending out a tweet saying that Stephen Miller is what is he? Go for it, Rick. Hey, boy, he's hanging on.
He's a Nazi.
Stephen Miller was a white
Nazi.
a white nationalist. The guy is, as I'm not even going to say what you said. The guy is so Jewish. He's Jewish. They don't.
Rick, I understand. I mean,
they don't cross paths. They don't. There's no correlation there.
Stephen Miller is very, very Jewish. And let me tell you why they don't like Stephen Miller, because a lot of people don't realize, just to touch on that, Stephen Miller was communications director for Michelle Bachmann, back when Bachmann, and he's only 33 years old, he was communications director for Michelle Bachmann when she was a representative in Minnesota. He was communications director, I think that's the title he had, for Senator then Beauregard, Jeff Sessions, and then he went with the Trump campaign. And if you look with Donald Trump's administration, he was there on day one, and he's still there. Stephen Miller's still there, and the president, but she comes out and says white nationalist. Go ahead.
Okay, I hope I can get this in line. The hypocrisy of the week that's been all revealed is that the Democrats want to release the immigrants into our society, and they never come back. That's the big deal. We're inhumane, you know all that. So, what they did was, I've just learned yesterday, you probably already know it, they voted against the administration adding beds so they can keep all these people coming into the country comfortable. That's the first thing. But the worst thing is that evidently Trump and his administration floated, and I think this was all a ploy and a brilliant one, floated, we're going to take these immigrants then. We don't have room here because we don't have enough beds. We're going to ship them to the sanctuary cities because they're sanctuary cities. They had a fit. You cannot do that. You can't send them. It will disrupt the city. It's not fair to the city. How hypocritical. That's Hippocratico.
Hypocritical.
How hypocritical. It's early. It's too early.
It's okay.
How hypocritical.
You're rolling. Keep it going.
Is that? I mean, in 2 or 3 levels, it's so blatantly hypocritical that I stomped around the kitchen this morning getting ready to say that. Planning it.
Stomped around the kitchen.
Got to be a song there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anything rhymes with kitchen.
Kitchen stomp. Dun, 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 dun.
Really, I do. My blood boils. It really boils. This is just so obvious, and people blindly.
You got a winner, or you just want to?
No, that's it. I'm the hypocrisy patrol.
You got to remember, the media is the weapon of mass deception.
There you go.
Oh, great. Candace Owens is my winner for all time. She can be president when she's
WMD.
When she grows up. I mean, that woman is
What's the
brilliant.
word that Trump used twice this week?
Treason.
Thank you. Hey, folks, we got to get ready for our Pet of the Week is here, and our all-star political panel. Something very. I just want to say something here. Now, this week, the media does, they cut things off and they put little 30-second pieces together to give you the impression that something went one way. I just want to reiterate, the other day, the Attorney General was at an appropriations hearing where you discuss your budget. So everybody took an opportunity to not discuss budget for the most part. They took an opportunity to discuss, for the most part, the Mueller report and why he wrote his summary in 4 pages, okay? Let me say this. You don't hear this. Attorney General William Barr said, I will be glad to come back and answer those questions. I will be glad. So all the comments they're making, Attorney General William Barr said, I will be glad to come back. And he will. When he was asked, hey, are we going to flip a page and then have like 14 pages redacted and we're going to look through there and not understand what really happened? I'm not quoting him, but he put a little grin on his face and he looked at that senator and he said, oh, you'll know what happened in that report. Just go look it up. He said, you'll know what happened in that report. And all this stuff about the spying and things, he kept saying, I'll be glad to come back. So don't forget that. The other thing is they keep telling you every single day, okay, did the president see this? I mean, they make these bold things. Did the White House get to look at this? Did they look? Were they briefed? He said, I'll be glad to come back and ask all those questions. Let me just tell you, the executive branch has a right to look at it. They don't tell you legally. The executive branch absolutely gets to look at what they want. They don't share that with you. Okay? They make it look as though it's something, is it nefarious? Is that the word I'm looking for? Like it's something underhanded.
Criminal.
That Trump did something criminal, nefarious, underhanded, and Barr went up there and snuck them a copy. Why don't you look at the law, folks, and what they legally can do? Hey, so we're going to get to the Pet of the Week, and right after these messages, and don't forget, he said, I'll be glad to come back and answer those questions. I'm your host, BKP. Treason, they say.
Just wait.